It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Hola, and welcome to Good Morning Tatooine as we celebrate the Kingdom of Spain winning the female soccer or football, or however you might describe it, World Cup. Delighted here in Scotland. I'm sure everyone else in the UK is also celebrating and all around the world. And lots to discuss this week as well, coming from the world of Star Wars. So what have we got coming up in the show? Let's find out. And my graphics package has stalled. Typical. Let's go for it. Let's see if we can get it working another way. And it's gone. There we go. It's first up, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll be looking at the blending of Anakin and Vader. Next comes Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, coming to digital platforms from the 29th of August. Diego Luna was interviewed just before the actors' strike about the Emmy nominations for Andor. We'll be discussing his thoughts. Roosevelt's have launched their Star Wars Summer 2023 collection. We'll be looking at that. Lucasfilm have decided to leave the Sandcrawler building in Singapore as they close down operations over there. What does that mean for the future of Star Wars animation? Rancho Obi-Wan, some sad news just now. They're cancelling this year's gala. We'll be discussing our love of Rancho Obi-Wan. The world of Star Wars Visions, getting a new comic, this time from Peach Momoko. We'll be checking that out. And there's more Young Jedi Adventures coming just in time for Life Day. And we're going to round off the show by talking about the upcoming Ahsoka show. So who's here to discuss that with me this week? None other than Paul McQue from Fantatrax.com. Hi, Paul.
Hello. How you doing, Brian?
Not bad, not bad. How's your week been?
It's been good. Good, thank you. Yep. Nice and chilled.
Yep, lots of Star Wars news this past week to get up on the social media for Fantatrax.
Aye.
Highlight of the week for you?
It's highlight of the week.
Or what stories had the most impact or the most discussion out there?
ILM has been pushing a lot.
Yeah.
I think not just Andor. In fact, the whole Emmys. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of pushing for like the Mandalorian, and Obi-Wan. So it's I don't know. There seems to be a lot of pushing for a lot of votes just now, I think.
Yeah. It's going to be odd, I think, award season this year as well. Depending on how things go with the writers and actors strike, whether things are resolved. Doesn't look like it's going to resolve anytime soon. And as soon as we get award season time, it's going to be potentially empty hall events.
Yeah.
So it's going to maybe look like it did during COVID. But it's kind of, that becomes a shame when people's work in the shows maybe they don't get that kind of significant recognition that night, that evening, that little bit of glory that they maybe otherwise would have had.
The conversations are needing to be had. They need to sort this out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big problem at the moment, is there's really nobody seems to be coming up with the answers or coming up with the will to have these discussions, so it could rumble on. Let's get ahead into this week's news, though. And first up, we had Obi-Wan Kenobi and the blending with Anakin and Vader. Variety had a really interesting article and video up with sign people behind the Obi-Wan series, looking at how they tried to meld the performance of Hayden Christensen as Anakin and his sort of transition into Vader, especially when the helmet was kind of split open, and it was like a really interesting kind of in-depth kind of little look at just that little element from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I think is easily kind of looked over as well, because we've all become so familiar with sort of Vader's voice that you don't stop to think about how they're creating it now, with James J. Rowlands being that little bit older, and the work involved in terms of crafting it.
It's these articles, and especially if you haven't seen it, then you need to check out the little video that goes along with it.
Yeah.
It's these little clips and little behind the scenes things that we're missing out on, with it just being on Disney Plus, when we're not getting the physical media. That's what I miss about the DVDs for these sort of shows.
Yeah. They had the interesting kind of element as well of forging kind of like a new voice for Vader, using AI technology, which is obviously controversial at this point in time, but melding it with James Earl Jones' performance, melding it with Hayden Christensen, and manipulating it based on the fact, that the helmet's kind of cracked open as well during the scene, so there's little elements of all of that in there. So it was kind of like a really interesting take, I thought.
Yeah, those guys are geniuses, they put in so much work, so much detail.
Yeah. And as you said, videos up there on factortracks.com. Check out the link in the show notes and check out that video. I think it runs for about 6 or 7 minutes, so it's quite a good in-depth kind of little look at it. And like, as you said, it's the kind of thing you miss when you don't get DVDs, because and these are the kind of things that are really good at supporting a show when it show's on air as well. So it's kind of disappointing they've maybe waited this length of time to put something like that out there, because it's the kind of thing you would want to see in the week after that episode comes out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, hopefully that becomes something.
Hopefully we see more of it over the coming weeks, months as well.
Yeah. When we're talking about behind the scenes as well, we've got coming up digitally on August 29th, Dial of Destiny, coming to all the digital platforms, and it is going to have bonus features attached to it, and they've kind of described sort of 5 chapters that are going to form that. So there's like the prologue, there's a New York element, a Morocco, Sicily, and then the finale. So they are going to load that up with bonus features, and it's been a much maligned film on socials, and I don't know why, because I loved it, and I just felt it was a proper take on the Indiana Jones storyline, but people were lining up to lash into it. And do you think it's going to make any difference, or do you think people are going to pick it up digitally? Do you think it could see a second sort of resurgence?
Yeah, it will have a second wind, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they are struggling to get bums on seats in the cinema. I mean, not just Indiana Jones. I mean, Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
that was disappointing. Like, they had higher expectations for Mission as well. So it's not just indie,
I think that kind of
I do think it will have a second window.
Yeah, I think that kind of prolonged period during lockdown when everyone's kind of only had their TV and streaming service for entertainment has kind of changed the whole model. And I don't know even if we as viewers know what works and what doesn't yet, because as you said, Mission Impossible was another great example, but then something like Barbie and Oppenheimer doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell what is the big cinematic releases now. You always used to talk about this summer blockbuster, but maybe what that summer blockbuster isn't quite as clear anymore.
I mean, it could be a generational thing as well, you know. You got guys who are, what was Tom Cruise the other day? 60 odd?
Yeah.
60-year-old and 80-year-old doing action movies. Maybe that's just, you know, it's a hard sell for Gen Z.
Mr. Newbuild there in the comments, Dial of Destiny is going to prosper on home video. I do think it's going to find a home. It feels like there was a little element of a protest almost to it. And it's more not necessarily Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford, but more of a protest at Disney and Disney's ownership of Lucasfilm. It kind of feels like. And there's a huge wave of that on anything you post on social media. In the comments you can jump into. And I wonder if things will change in home video, where all these people that want to express their hatred is the only way to describe it, I think, can buy it on home video and watch it in home video and nobody really knows about it and they can do it in secrecy. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it seems bizarre. It almost feels like they want to watch it because they're prepared to spend hours and hours and hours criticising it without having seen it.
Which is sad and pathetic, but
yeah, definitely. Moving on, something that got kind of universal kind of praise, it kind of felt like, or at least that's kind of my take on it, was Andor. It seemed to get a whole lot of love as it came out, and as Mr. Malcaster there's jumping in the comments here. Closet indie fans, couldn't agree more. That's exactly what it is. Andor kind of, I don't know, it had a slow build before its release. There didn't seem to be a huge bubble of expectation or anticipation for it before it came out. And every week it just started nailing it by doing something completely different and unexpected for Star Wars. And now obviously it's got its Emmy nominations, and before the actor's strike, Diego Luna was asked about his kind of comments on it, and he described it as being a beautiful thing, and celebrating that nominations and really seeing it as, I don't know, a whole collaboration and a team thing. So I wondered, what was your thoughts on Andor, sort of leading up to it before it came out? Was it something that you were excited for before it came out?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of slightly biased, but any connection to Rogue One, I am all over.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if people...
Andor itself was a kind of slow burn.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. And I like the way they did their sort of chapters as well. It was like every 3 episodes, change of scene, different direct. Everything had an arc. You know, there was like, 3 or 4 arcs within the season sort of thing. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And I think the fact it kind of had this slow build, it kind of drew you in as a viewer every week. I find myself watching it 3, 4, 5 times before the next episode came on. And I wasn't doing that with Obi-Wan or Mando. You know, even though I was enjoying them to an extent, I wasn't finding myself going back to rediscover that moment or that inflection or that little comment or that little look that you kind of felt when you started watching the episodes again, that the performances the actors were giving you.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, again, we've said it before, but it's worth saying again, the use of locations, real world locations, rather than, you know, what Mandalorian and Boba Fett, you know, as good as it is, they just
it kind of
stepped over the line and used it too much, you know.
Yeah, you kind of feel when it's in a real world location, there's something more tactile about it, and it kind of draws you into what's going on. And sadly, I think we're going to move away from that, certainly in terms of Disney Plus TV content. Listening to what Bob Iger's been saying about wanting to cut costs, and the only way to cut costs is to bring things back into a small studio space. And the volume allows them to bring it back to a small studio space.
Yeah, I mean the volume. Don't get me wrong. The volume it has its uses, but being in there for 90-95% is too much.
Yeah. Mark Mulcaster there from Making Tracks podcast, making an interesting comment there that Andor had so much depth and challenged the audience to view Star Wars in a different way, something that we hadn't seen before. And I think he's right. Every week you felt like what you thought Star Wars was being challenged. And I think some people will say that about The Last Jedi, but it felt, whilst you were being challenged about what you thought about Star Wars and Andor, it was taking you along with the story more than I felt maybe The Last Jedi did. And, you got this insight into different elements of Star Wars. Like, they spent a long time in the jail kind of scene, which we've never seen sort of Star Wars jail before, and it was kind of like an odd environment and whatever. And it was a slow build, and it built up. And by the end of it, you were desperately wanting them all to escape, and you'd only known them for a couple of hours, it was crazy.
I mean, again, the set, as you say, the set design itself is fascinating.
Yeah. And you've had a chance to visit the Aldani location, and you've got quite a few videos and photos and so on hung up on Father Tracks from yourselves that you've done.
Yeah.
And
Crooked Dam is about an hour up the road from where I am. The last time I was there, I actually went inside. In fact, I haven't posted that actually. Good reminder. I actually went inside and did the tour. And as I was getting the tour, I said to him, sorry. I said to him, is there any chance you could show us where they shot that one scene that they shot inside the dam? And they were like, no, they didn't shoot inside here. And I was like, they did. So I pulled out my phone and showed them the clip from Celebration, where Gilroy and Kennedy were talking about, as they were entering to do their heist. It was just a very quick, 5 second, they sort of enter with their guns sort of thing. So I sort of showed them that, and they were like, "Oh, wait a minute! Like this is news to us." And that's the tour guides. So even the tour guides didn't know it was shot inside.
Yeah.
And well, he ended up saying, "Oh, you need to speak to my boss." So he was like,
But that's that location is a great example of something you could never capture the scale of that location on a volume. Just something you couldn't do.
No.
Moving swiftly on, and this is me selling my own fashion wares tonight. I'm modelling one of Roosevelt shirts from their summer 2023 collection, and we can check out the whole summer 2023 collection as well, because a lot of these were revealed at San Diego Comic-Con. They're now up on Roosevelt's website to buy. Incredible shirt designs, always are from Roosevelt's. A whole range. We've got summer snips, which is kind of what I'm wearing. Perfectly timed for Ahsoka coming up this week. From a certain point of view, you're all clear, kid. The twins, Pew Pew, the Bo-Katan, which I think's really kind of cool. Love that. And my personal favourite, the Thrawn bomber jacket. And just because I'm a Imperial love an Imperial outfit. And Roosevelt's do these great, amazing, comfortable shirts, high quality shirts, and very lucky to have one on tonight. If you were buying one of the Roosevelt's shirts, what one would you go for?
There's a Bo-Katan heading my way.
Yeah, good pick.
Yeah, that's the first roper. I almost got the Indy roper,
Yeah.
but yeah, when the Bo-Katan, and again, it's so my plan. And if you follow us on social media, follow us on Instagram. My plan is to go up to Skye, and I'll do a photo shoot or drone shoot wearing that when it arrives the next Sunday. That's decent weather.
If people don't realise, that's where Bo-Katan's palace, I guess
Castle.
you would call it, castle. Yeah, castle filmed up on the Isle of Skye, just on the west coast of Scotland.
Nest Point.
Despite the cheers from the Making Tracks team in the comments, I won't be getting up on the catwalk anytime soon, I don't think. And but if you can get a shirt that fits me, that's another great thing about Roosevelt's as well. Then I won't be shaking my tush on the catwalk anytime soon. But yeah, great stuff from the guys at Roosevelt's. I kind of dig their shirts that you can kind of get away with, that you don't really know they're Star Wars ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pew Pew one kind of works that way a little bit for me. But
if I wore Imperial, then I would have bought that bomber.
Yeah, but You're All Clear Kid, I think, is kind of like a kind of cool one that you can kind of look at and not really realise it's Star Wars. And so yeah, that would be a nice pick.
Well, talking of the subtlety, I ended up buying, I think I mentioned it the last time, the Mandalorian, what's the Mandalorian one? The Beskar.
Yeah.
Ended up getting so I got the Beskar and the Bo-Katan. That's heading over.
Very nice. We've had, I'm celebrating Star Wars animation, which people laugh at because I fairly rarely ever watch a little bit of Star Wars celebration, but we'll try. Sad news this week, I think, as well, for a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of shocked that Lucasfilm are leaving the Sandcrawler building in Singapore. Something George Lucas built many years ago, I think early 2000s, I think 2004 rings a bell, as, an extra outlet to develop not only Lucasfilm animation for the Clone Wars, but to expand Industrial Light and Magic and what they're doing in terms of VFX. And built this incredible building that looked like a sandcrawler, employed over 300 people, and they had other people in the building, Apple, Disney, loads of huge tech companies. And then I guess a few years ago, it was sold by Lucasfilm. And maybe the writing was on the wall back then, because they had like a Yoda fountain, much like they have outside Lucasfilm in San Francisco, and it disappeared. Nobody really knows where to. I'm guessing it's back in California. And maybe these are kind of the signs that things weren't going to be there for the long term. And we've got the sad news that at the end of this year that Lucasfilm's going to move out as a tenant. Disney's moving out as a tenant. ILM as well. And effectively closing down the whole operations in Singapore for Lucasfilm and ILM at the same point in time, and consolidating it and bringing it back to America, it appears.
It's a shame. You feel for the people who have lost their jobs, that's the main thing.
Yeah. As well, it wasn't just a case of Lucasfilm being out there. They've helped sort of build a whole industry out there as well. As you've seen, a huge increase in content coming out of that whole continent, in fact, not just Singapore, and VFX growing as an industry out there as well. So hopefully there's going to be outlets for these people to find alternative employment. Wondered what your thoughts were in terms of how it's going to impact Lucasfilm in the long term in terms of animation. Do you think animation is becoming less of a priority to them, or is it just a case of this is a cost-cutting exercise, it's reconfiguring the company, it's making it leaner?
I just think it'll be cost-cutting. Cost-cutting. I can't remember who tweeted, but I see, Pablo Hidalgo retweeted it, but it was someone from
I think Mark's just
Lucasfilm.
given the answer there in the comments. Rob Paredo
Oh, there
tweeted.
you go. There you go. Yeah, looking to me. That's
Tweeted or X'd.
you beat.
What we call it?
You beat. Yeah, you beat me to it, Mark. So yeah, that's hopefully they keep on doing the work they're doing just elsewhere.
Yeah. We're kind of at this point where he's got his grill out. He's going to live forever, that guy. I love that. I love that. I've completely lost now. I'm completely thrown. I'm drinking a little bit of orange
Spanish beer.
here, and I'm just like, I'm not going to live forever.
San Miguel.
Yeah. He's chosen wisely. I've chosen poorly. There we go. If my face starts going really old in a moment, we'll know why. Yeah, I guess we're at this kind of junction with animation where there's been a huge sort of pivot from maybe the central figure of Star Wars animation being Dave Filoni, and he's moved so much into the live action realm, and yet he's still involved in the animated side of things. But we probably don't have a flagship show on air at the moment. It kind of feels like Bad Batch hasn't really caught the same imagination that Rebels and Clone Wars has. In terms of other animated, it's more aimed towards kids. Like Star Wars isn't for kids, it's for grown-ups like us. And there doesn't seem to be that flagship show on the air at the moment. I just wondered, do you think there's one happening behind the scenes we just don't know about yet?
Hopefully. I mean, I suppose every generation now, it's a good way to get them hooked, get them in.
Yeah. And I kind of feel that
Resistance wasn't that popular, but it was decent.
Yeah. Becca's saying there in the comments, don't be bashing on the Bad Batch. Not bashing on it. I don't watch any of it. I can't comment on the quality of anything. I just get the vibe from socials when it doesn't feel like the Bad Batch gets the same reaction that Rebels and the Clone Wars does. And I say that with the utmost respect for the people working on it. I don't know if it's because it's just a continuation, but with a subset of characters, and we're seeing Ahsoka, Sabine, Hera move into live action, that we're kind of at that point. But I have been interested in the Omega character and what happens with her. But we'll wait and see. I've kind of expected a reveal before now.
Watch any Visions?
I'm more inclined to watch Visions because it's nice, short, sharp, sweet. I do have this issue with non-consequential Star Wars content. I don't know if it's just like sometimes you can overdo Star Wars content, even in the sort of, I'm just talking about literature, just the mainline books and comics, and you just think it's just another book, don't know the purpose of it. But when it comes to something like Visions, where it's a studio just creating a set of original characters, it doesn't really connect to anything else. I kind of lose a little bit of interest, to be honest. But I don't know. I think people's reaction to Visions and
there's still time for Clone Wars. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. You can dip into.
Yeah.
Like when it aired, I never watched it when it aired. I tried to, but the whole jumping around story to story, like it wasn't chronological. That put me off. But then once it had finished, I watched it chronologically, and it is worth watching.
Yeah. Visions season 2, Becca's telling me, is far surpassed season 1. Kind of got that vibe on social media. People are really excited about the fact there's Star Wars anime. I wholly admit I know nothing about anime. I go to a Comic Con, I see all these people dressed up, and I presume it's from anime because I know nothing about it. But all I wanted from season 2 Visions was like a Star Wars character to sort of go with the fingers like Gromit. It never happened. So let down there. Mr. Newbold suggesting maybe Visions is kind of like throwing out backdoor pilots. Very possible. Yeah, I can see Visions spinning off and something sticking and working, and working, and getting its own series. I can see that happening. Mark also making a good point there that I thought Annie Mae worked at the local pub. That's probably a fair comment. Far more educated people can speak on the topic of animation. It does leave me interested to see what my reaction is going to be to the Ahsoka TV series. Because I laugh when I look at social media at the moment that anything StarWars.com posts to do with Ahsoka, you've got to scroll about 100 comments down before you see something positive. And it's got nothing negative to do with anything to do with the live action TV show. It's entirely people's perceptions of what it should be based off of animation. And I've got no investment in any of the characters, but perhaps Thrawn, because he's featured in novels, and novels was kind of my thing. Couldn't care one iota about Ahsoka, Hera, Ezra, Zeb. I know their names, I know that much. So somehow you've got to make me care about them whilst not making it a nursery story for everybody that's watched the animation that becomes so boring because you're retelling everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult one. And I'm interested to see how they do that.
Well, that's going to be vital.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't have to know the characters going into this.
Yeah. And it's like people are going to instantly have I don't know what the right word is, but they're going to have this affection for Ahsoka or Sabine that I'm not going to. So how do you introduce characters in a way that serves their history that people know and love, and also serve me that couldn't care less when I just want to know why this purple-haired girl's throwing about a lightsaber when she says she's a Mandalorian. Like, and to some respect, when they introduced Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, it kind of worked. I thought it was kind of a nice introduction for someone like me that doesn't know enough about the character, but knows little bits. I thought they introduced it in the right kind of fashion there. So certainly they've got the chops to introduce them to me. But where do you fall in the sort of divide between animation? Has animation sort of been something that you've watched?
I mean, talking about when you're saying about anime, likewise, I'm not into anime at all. It's just never crossed my path. In terms of Star Wars content, like I said, I didn't watch the Clone Wars. Did afterwards. I watched Rebels. Resistance. I watched it, but I wasn't really into it. Visions, I never watched season 1. Only watched it when season 2 dropped. So in terms of animation, like I can take it or leave it, but I hope they don't lean too much into you've got to know these characters as far as the TV show goes.
Yeah.
They've got to treat it as a blank slate, I think.
Yeah. Becca's asking the question in the comments there of whether I saw the Master and Apprentice special. I have, and I find it actually interesting that on the most recent press release that Disney put out for content coming to Disney Plus in September, they actually list a Master and Apprentice special to do with Ahsoka coming to Disney Plus, and it's coming out, I think, after episode 7. I think I'm right in saying that.
Episode 5, I think.
Is it? Okay, okay.
There's 3 episodes to go. While
that's where it is. Yeah, that's where it is. And yeah. I kind of find that interesting. So obviously there's something going to happen in the series that not necessarily needs an explanation, but maybe it needs an explanation point added to it. And that could be interesting. And I think maybe that's a clever thing to do. I don't know if it's going to be this same Master and Apprentice they've put out on YouTube, or whether it's going to be something expanded upon that. So there could become the juncture in the series that this little explainer is going to come in handy. Yeah, Mr. Newbald's also making the point. Retelling the major plot points is harder for the newbies, but sucking eggs for the long-time followers, that's a great way to put it, I think. Mr. Newbold suggesting we're going to get a Luke level appearance on the show, quite possibly. I'm kind of expecting Obi-Wan and Anakin and Stroke Vader to be in it. I'd be amazed if they weren't. I would love it if the first episode was a entirely Boba-centric and Fennec Shand episode, just to get some kind of payback. Everyone tunes in for episode 1 and she doesn't appear. That would be a classic.
When do you think Thrawn's going to appear?
A lot of people say he's not going to appear until the end, but I don't think the reveal of Thrawn is impactful to the most common viewer. I think the most common viewers aren't really going to know who Thrawn is. So I don't know if you wait until the final scene and reveal him. I don't think that works because I don't think it's impactful. So I can actually see him appearing in very small elements throughout the series. Maybe not you don't reveal him initially, but maybe at least a couple of episodes in, I think you've kind of got to...
I think they're going to... I think it'll be around about episode 5.
Yeah.
That's my... So that you know I'm going into the final act sort of thing, the final 3 episodes. Or maybe episode 6.
And that maybe makes sense in terms of if they're going to have this explainer kind of... I'm not going to call it a documentary because I don't think it's going to be that, but let's just say a 10-minute kind of clue-in kind of thing. Maybe that's why after episode 5, maybe the end of episode 5, you can see the back of the head and you get a little bit of explanation as to what to expect in the next 3 episodes. But yeah, I don't think it's going to have the impact, if that's the impact I think they're going to deliver by introducing Thrawn in that way. But we'll wait and see. I've been proven wrong many times before.
If they were to do that, let's put it that way, if it was to be an episode 5, 6 sort of thing, then that would give them time to develop the fear that they have for him.
Yeah.
Kind of like put it like in a Jaws sort of thing. You know what I mean? You don't really see the shark until you have to.
I get that. I think they kind of maybe ruined that a little bit with mention them in The Mandalorian towards the end, and I get they're doing that to create a connection, but you've kind of taken away the existence of Thrawn and a little bit as a surprise maybe. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I'm not going to be shocked or excited by the fact that Thrawn's on the air, so if it's a big reveal scene and it's supposed to have that impact, I don't know. I suppose the return of Ezra is your impact moment, more than anything. But yeah, we'll talk about more.
You're saying you don't know your animation. You're pulling the Ezra out of the hat.
I've seen multiple premieres at celebrations.
See, I think you've nailed.
And I've seen people completely losing it over the introduction of character, and I've been sitting there going, don't know what's going on here. Why are people so excited by that blue blob on the screen? But I know enough to get by, I think.
I think that's the way season 1's going to end. Ezra's going to make an appearance.
Yeah. I don't get this whole, like everyone's talking about the world between worlds. And that I don't get. Don't understand anything to do with that. Or the mother, was it mother, father, daughter, son? I don't know, that trio of people. Yeah. Don't understand.
They were eating some special cookies when they came up with that.
Did they? Yeah. I can imagine. Let's move on to the rest of the news because we're going to circle back to Ahsoka at the end, so I'm completely diverting the show away from the intended role because we run a strict ship here. Up next, some sad news as well. There's going to be no Rancho Obi-Wan Gala this year. It had been planned for Saturday the 21st of October, now postponed until 2024 due to an illness amongst the Rancho Obi-Wan family. So we'll send all our love to everyone across at Rancho Obi-Wan. Do support them as well. Fantastic charity, fantastic venue as well. You get a chance, if you become a member, to visit and get a tour around. The whole collection is absolutely unbelievable place to visit. So we'll send all our love to Stu and his family, and hope he recovers and gets well very soon. Have you ever had the chance to head over to Rancho Obi-Wan?
I've been a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just trying to think. It's been a few years, right enough. I'm going to say it was around about 2014, 2016, something like that.
Yeah.
I went myself the first time, and it turns out that's when I first met the Minton Box crew.
Okay, yeah.
They were over. Pure coincidence. Ended up doing the tour with them. And then the second time I went back with a friend who stayed in San Francisco. Went up with her, and she really enjoyed herself.
Yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, just as you said, it was well said. Send our thoughts out to the Rancho family.
Yeah, 100%. Next in news, we kind of talked about it a little bit already. Star Wars Visions, it's getting its own comic series. Appears as though we're going to get single issues from various artists. First up, we're getting Peach Momoko, who is a hugely, insanely popular comic book artist. And I happen to have quite a few of her covers of comics, Star Wars comics, in my collection. Incredibly difficult to get hold of, because there's a huge marketplace out there for her work, so people will be very excited that she's taking on doing a whole comic book here. And I kind of get the impression that, similar to the TV show, that certain ones of these characters may then spin off and have their own little sub-series. And the Star Wars Visions issue 1 is going to come out in November. We kind of talked about before, kind of Visions is it's almost like a sidestep to the side for Star Wars. Is it canon? Is it not? Is it a big deal whether it is or not? It's almost like experimental storytelling a little bit.
Experimental fun.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see this expanding into the sort of comic realm, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of artists they introduced it. I hope we get a completely different field of artists than we're used to, and then that may in turn lead to them getting mainstream runs, I hope.
Just going back to, is Peach, again, I'm not into comics. I went through a phase of buying the comics, but comics to me are like figures. There's just too many.
Yep.
To get involved with. I'll dip in every now and again. If something really grabs my eye, then I'll pick up the book, but I won't go for individual comics. But I'm presuming just by the cover that you showed there, she's Japanese.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Because the only reason I was looking at so I follow the Star Wars Japan Twitter. As soon as Star Wars Japan joins Threads, then I can delete the app. That's all I'm going to say. That's the only reason I'm still on Twitter, is to check out the Japanese Star Wars. But her art reminded me of, so at the moment in one of the malls in Tokyo, they've got a pop-up, and her art was very similar to one of the guys who's got a load of posters. He did a Mandalorian and Grogu. I posted that on Twitter and Instagram. But her art reminded me of his. So that was, as soon as I seen that, I thought,
she's kind of really propelled in the last 4 or 5 years, I think, and she signed an exclusive deal with Marvel in 2020 through their sort of Stormbreakers program, which was trying to get a more diverse range of artists in the American comic industry. And
good.
Primarily, I've seen her work as cover art, and especially in Star
Right.
Wars, she's done like a number of exclusives, normally store exclusive cover art and limited runs, which have been incredibly hard to get because kind of like our popularity has really exploded. So
Okay.
um, she's done a lot of really nice stuff. So it's interesting to see her getting her own full issue there as well. And it looks like certainly she's got a big career ahead of her as well.
She started off as an artist or writer as well,
I think her big breakthrough came through as an artist. But she's also doing writing as well. She's
writing as
done a
well.
lot of her own work as well.
Talented lass.
Yeah, definitely. Next up on the news front, we have new episodes of Young Jedi Adventures arriving just in time for Life Day in November. November 8th, coming to Disney Junior and Disney Plus. We're kind of talking about the future of Star Wars animation earlier. And the Young Jedi Adventures is kind of this perfect example of aiming animation for, we'll call them younglings, little kids. And we're going to get a whole new number of episodes coming out. Then, and as Becca says in the comments, I see this a lot, Nubs Nation. Nubs is the little thing that looks like a koala, is the way that I would describe it.
Old Ewok.
Yeah, the little sort of, I don't know, can you get away with calling someone big-eared in 2023? The little big, furry, big-eared thing is Nubs. But I think there's a lot of fun to the series. I've kind of watched a lot of it because it's been on YouTube. I don't subscribe to Disney Plus unless there's Star Wars on the air. It's exciting to Bob Iger. I'm the exact kind of customer he doesn't want. They're Mr. Newbold as well. Nubs Nation. There's a whole underground of grown adults loving these things for kids. Because D is amazing as well. And a very great point from Mark Newbold. We can't have it on this show. We can't say it on this show. You can't have fat bottom girls anymore. Apparently banned from their album classic song. What's wrong with the world? I'm old, so they're allowed varied opinions on this show. But yeah, I don't know if there's any fat bottom girls in the Young Jedi Adventures. I don't assume there is. But there's definitely Nubs, and he's got a whole underground world on social media obsessed by him, I think. So grown adults are probably more excited than the kids for more episodes of Young Jedi Adventures coming in November. But I believe the whole toy range surrounding it is incredibly popular as well. I think Hasbro are doing great guns with the toy ranges around it as well.
That's one thing I have noticed on Instagram. It does get a lot of likes.
Yeah. Nubs Nation.
I
Try
haven't
that
watched any of
hashtag
it.
the next time you post something.
Aye, I'll keep
You
that in
could
mind.
be introducing yourself to a whole underworld of Star Wars fans you wish you'd ever brought yourself. And last up in the news front, we've talked a lot about it already. Ahsoka is coming out this week. We've got a new so how would you describe it? Preview clip, and I'm just trying to find it now because I haven't.
A little feature. I was I was surprised when I seen it, but then the more I thought about it, it makes perfect sense.
Tano Tuesdays.
Why not? Why not have that social media buzz when America is getting home from work and, getting a chance to go home from work, put it on, and then tweet about it?
Yeah. I'm quite happy at them being on at 2 in the morning, because that's when I come alive and get most of my work done for Fantha Tracks is between the hours of 2 and 4 in the morning. If you ever get emails or messages from me at that time of the hour, I'll never expect anyone to reply. And but then
time change doesn't affect me whatsoever, because I'd still go to work and then watch it when I come back from work that day anyway. So
yeah. Becca saying Chop is the real hero. Will we see him get blown up? This is what we need. Someone has to die. Someone has to die to make it all worthwhile.
Did you see the creator clip that was posted?
I don't think
I thought you
have.
were going to watch that. Oh, you need to watch that. ILM posted it the other day. It's a little, I don't know, a little. Well, just as what you. I'm not going to. You need to watch it. I'm not going to say what I want to say.
Yeah, I feel
But
that one of the animated characters has to die.
Plenty of explosions.
Yeah. I think one of the characters has to die. I think we've got this issue. I'm going to one criticism for Dave Filoni is he keeps bringing his characters back. Maybe it's time for him to let one of them go. So here's my question. Here's a stinger of a question. If you had to kill one of the rebels, which one would you take out?
Zeb.
Zeb?
Yeah. No hesitation, Zeb.
Yeah.
And that would
the creator looks incredible. Hoping to be chatting with Carter later than not. I saw clips from it. I haven't seen the most recent ones, but I've seen clips earlier in the year. It does look incredible.
So if they were to kill off Zeb, that'd save them a fortune from creating them as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Cost an exercise. He can go.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be Zeb or Chopper because they're the most costly. Bob Iger says to Bob. Bob Iger says to Dave, you could get rid of one of them for season 2. But yeah, everyone seems very excited, but there also seems to be this kind of element of people not willing to accept it because it's not animation. And I kind of feel this is going to be Dave Filoni's Phantom Menace, and that it may be absolutely attacked mercilessly online for a sustained period of time. But in reality, long term, people are going to actually realise that they actually kind of love it.
I don't know, it's going to be interesting. He's still riding a wave. No, you're right, but he is still riding a wave.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Becca's actually pointing out, there we go, I forgot about him. I don't watch it. We already lost Kanan. Did we lose him? Did he die? He lost his eyesight. I remember that. Did he die? Or has he just disappeared? Yeah. Someone going to correct me in the comments here.
He's gone.
Gone. Who killed him?
Left a baby and gone.
Of course, Hera's child. Yeah, he died. Ah, dear. Poor Kanan. Well, we're going to let Dave Filoni off. Maybe we'll let him off not having to kill one. Yeah, Mr. New was kind of saying what I'm saying there. Dave is golden right now, but the slightest stumble in the fandom will pile on. Nicest guy. One of the nicest creators I've met. I met him actually at Rancho Obi-Wan. And I had to confess to not watching Star Wars animation to him because he asked me a question. It was a case of, do I lie? And does he have a follow-up question? And I just dig a hole, or do I just admit that I don't watch it? And I think it shocked him that you would come all the way from the UK to Rancho Obi-Wan and not watch everything Star Wars that comes out. But we then spoke about ice hockey, which he was loved. But yeah, I've met him a few times. Really nice guy. So I'm wishing him all the best. I've actually enjoyed what he's done live action on Mando. So I think he's more than earned his right to have a crack at Ahsoka. I think you couldn't imagine anyone else having the opportunity. I think it's great that he's writing all the episodes. I think it's also great that he's letting other directors come in as well. So we're going to get different takes and different flavours on the characters as well.
Interesting time.
Yeah. Is there anything specific about Ahsoka that you want to see happen? Or
Chopper go on the rampage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he one of those droids, one of those just insane, uncontrollable droids?
Yes.
And this brings me back to Uncle Owen. First thing he did, restraining bolts on them all. And that's what they should have. In public, all droids, restraining bolts.
No, Chopper is... I don't know. He's an adorable, grumpy little bugger.
Could be me. The Dave Filoni voices him, doesn't he?
You'd love him.
I've heard that before. Dave Filoni's the voice behind Chopper.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that true, or is that just an internet lie that I buy into?
No, it's true. They held off for a while, but I think after all the episodes had aired, he eventually fessed up to it.
Yeah, I actually saw this video. It reappeared somewhere the other day. Becca's making a point there about when Dave Filoni first got the gig, and he kind of rejected the phone call, thinking it was someone winding him up, because he was sitting in his garage making a Plo Koon cosplay at the time that the phone call came in from someone at Lucasfilm, and he just didn't believe they were actually knew him, even, let alone wanted to employ him. So Mr. Newball confirming Filoni voices Chopper, and Bo Kevil in Resistance. I don't even know who that is. Yeah, so that Star Wars Resistance is probably the one animation where all the characters have kind of passed me by. I kind of know who the other ones are. Probably I don't know the Bad Batch. That would be fair to say. They've all got weird names in the Bad Batch. They're all defective. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to react to Ahsoka, and that's kind of what makes me interested. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to watch the 2 episodes. So I'm invested to that point. I kind of want to support Dave Filoni because I think he put his heart and soul into Star Wars. I like listening to him speak. Even though I don't watch his shows, I like listening to him speak. I think he talks Star Wars very well. I'm fascinated as to what he's going to do movie-wise. I do think he's got a hard sell because you're having to take characters from a TV show that's, and this isn't a criticism, but it's got a low audience because it's behind a streaming service wall. Mainstream world, 90% of the target audience probably not familiar. So he's got a hard sell when he comes to his movie to try and get the mainstream audience to watch it. But I think he's earned his stripes.
And that's if they go with everyone's expecting this Marvel blueprint, bring them all together.
Crossover, the Avengers style. I think it'll be a lot more nuanced than that.
I think, yeah, exactly.
I just don't. I don't see a Star Wars Avengers assemble. I don't see it because, to be perfectly frank, Ahsoka's been in Mando, with Luke, with Boba. That shows have already all crossed over already. So it's not a big deal for them to come together in a movie. It's kind of been done on the small screen already. So Mr. Newball did as well. The Marvel template isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I think
it's been done.
Yeah, I think the aim of a movie.
You need to do something else.
I think the aim of a movie is you have to have the storyline that heads in a particular way that allows you to have a payoff in a 2-hour movie. So it has to be something big and climactic that you couldn't do on the TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, at the same time, it has to be open enough that the people that aren't hugely familiar with the TV shows can invest in the film and the characters as well. I'm just reading a comment there as well from Becca, and this one hits right in my heartstrings, I think. At the end of the day, I think it means more to Dave to do George proud than anything else. And I love that comment, to be perfectly honest. I kind of noticed the other day in Lucasfilm were posting lots of things about the 50th anniversary of American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And one of them, I'm not going to name them, but they made the comment that this was Lucasfilm's first huge success. I just felt, no, it was George's first big success. And so I've got this thing about George, and I think certainly as the Star Wars fan base gets younger, I think there's a more of an element are not going to really know or understand George's sort of contribution to everything, because they're used to 100 different writers being involved and 100 different artists being involved and everybody creating this amazing franchise that is Star Wars. And I think the whole fact that Dave was almost George's apprentice in many ways, and in many ways as well, Dave opened up the door to allow George to experiment with Star Wars in a way that he probably always wanted to as well. So there is this kind of dual relationship to it. So I can imagine if he had to sit up till 2 o'clock in the morning, George would sit up to 2 o'clock in the morning to watch the Ahsoka live series. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
Everyone should be following our socials over the next 24 hours. That's all we'll say.
Yeah, I think we can say there's the fan events that we've seen in America are getting replicated across Europe this coming week. So Fan the Tracks will be at a fan event in London. So you'll be able to follow that on socials over the next few days, or the next couple of days leading up to the launch of the series as well. So yeah, it's going to be exciting times. It's good to get Star Wars back in the air. It makes the weekly news reporting a lot more interesting because there's always something major happening and always a major discussion point.
Point out that we won't be obviously posting any spoilers, but I think it has to be said as well.
No spoilers.
You'll see pictures from the event, but nothing about the episode.
Yeah. So I think we always ask, no spoilers. Let people watch it.
Yeah.
Don't jump into the comments on day one and spoil everything. Give everybody at least a 24 hours to sit down and watch it before you feel the need to comment on specifics. Just general, loved that, hated that, the usual. And as Mr. Newbold says, there's going to be lots of content on socials, on the fantatracks.com, Fantatracks Radio, and we'll be discussing it here as well. And next week, Paul, I think that takes us to the end of the show. Appreciate you joining me, talking everything Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and beyond. And we'll look forward to you.
Put the Star Wars show back on YouTube.
Yeah, what's happened to the Star Wars show on YouTube? Come on, get back on air. We're missing it.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, and I think on that note, that's a perfect point to end. And we'll be back next week, Paul. I'm sure we'll have you back in the show very soon as well. And thank you everyone for your comments. Appreciated it. And we'll all look forward to Ahsoka, and we'll have much Ahsoka news to discuss next week, I am sure. Enjoy, everyone.
Cheers.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FanthaTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow FanthaTracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.